Hello, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. Thank you so much for joining our Don't Put Your Future on Hold webinar today. I'm Katie. I am part of the marketing team at ApplyBoard, and so I'll be your host for the day. So, given the current situation, it's a really important topic for us to be looking at. So, we've been speaking to a lot of students about it, and many students are considering either deferring or delaying their studies. And the purpose of today's webinar is really to talk about the huge opportunities that students have to start studying and to start studying online or through distance learning or through a hybrid system, and how that is such a great opportunity. There have been so many policy changes to support students at this time. Both the Canadian and UK governments have really made huge strides towards supporting international students. So we've got a really neat webinar for you today. It's going to be the chance to hear from two different angles. So students who are in the midst of their studies and two institutions who are leading the way in adapting to this new normal. So without further ado, I will do some introductions here. So on the student side, we have Emmy. Emmy is a public relations student at Conestoga College doing her bachelor's degree there. You can't see her. We're just working on some video technical difficulties right now, but we have Athena as well. Athena, you can feel free to turn your microphone on and say a little hello here to know that
Hi
you are there.
everyone.
So Athena is here, and she is a management engineering student at the University of Waterloo. And then we have Sophie. She is the head of the University of West England Bristol's international office, and we're so glad to have her here. Sophie came on one of our top recruiters workshop sessions, so it's great to have her back. And then we have Walter as well. So Walter is the Senior Vice President of Marketing and Enrollment at Yorkville University. We work very closely with them, so it's fantastic to have Walter on this panel as well today. So, just a couple reminders for everyone before we get started. So, we are going to be sending you this recording. So, you will get a copy of this at the end. So, feel free to just listen and sit back, and you will be able to review this information afterwards. And we are going to be taking questions throughout this presentation. So, you will be able to enter your questions through the question function on the screen. All right, so just a little bit about who we are. If you're here and you haven't heard of ApplyBoard before, we like to say that education is a right and not a privilege. That's the most important part about what we do. And so ApplyBoard considers education a fundamental right for all. So we are really looking forward to this discussion because it's so important as part of the international student journey. So what we do, a little bit about what we've done in the past. So we've helped over 100,000 students. We've secured $22 million in scholarships. We partner with over 1,200, I believe that number is even a little bit higher now, university, college, and high school partners. We have 4,500 recruitment partners out there you may be watching as well, and we have over 500 employees globally. So just some really cool achievements that we've seen happen in the last little while from ApplyBoard. Here are your reminders again on the screen. And if you do have any questions, I want to let you know, feel free to reach out to us at ApplyBoard. If you're entirely new to us, you can head to our website, applyboard.com, or you can email, I believe it's info@applyboard.com, and that will get to the right place so that we can begin to help you. So that's all of our reminders and our little preamble for the day. So we are going to actually just launch into our discussion here. So first and foremost, I know I introduced all of you to begin with, but if we could kind of just do a little bit of an introduction to where you're coming from, your institution for our school partners there, and then from Emmy and Athena, I'd love to hear about your degree. So we'll start with let's see, on my screen, Sophie's on the left-hand side. So we'll start with Sophie and we'll go across. So Sophie, tell us a little bit more
Yeah,
about UE.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Katie. So my name's Sophie. I'm Head of International Office at the University of West of England. UE is a large regional university, so about 30,000 students. You know, like a lot of universities in the UK, since March, when the UK went into lockdown, there's been a lot of work done into kind of what mode of operation we'll be doing. This has been led very much by government advice and guidance around what the UK should do, and also what we feel works best at UE, given the type of teaching we do, the type of learning, and through dialogue with our students. So, you know, like every university, not just in the UK, but globally, it's such a complex issue. There's so many things to take into consideration. So I think this is a really important webinar for us to be joining today to talk about what some of those opportunities will still give students despite the shift in education and learning. So I'm really pleased to be here and really excited to share some of my kind of experiences with the panel and with the audience.
Great. Thank you so much, Sophie. So next up, I have Walter on my screen. So go ahead, Walter. Oh, I think you're muted there if you want to unmute yourself.
Okay, great. That's something we hear every day now. Is the
that's part of the new normal too.
That's right. I'm Walter Lee. I'm the Senior Vice President of Marketing Enrollment at Yorkville University. And like Sophie and another part of the world, we've been kind of dealing with very similar issues. And our university, at Yorkville University, is also kind of shaping and reshaping its approach to the pandemic in consultation with public health, and also with the various public health authorities in each of the provinces that we're located in British Columbia and Ontario. Our approach in Canada, our situation is you know, a little different in that we're really been mandated to keep all programs online that we can, and or through remote learning, and so, you know, we're still largely in that situation, and really doing our best to make sure that students are engaged and able to continue with their studies as we all wait for the world to return to a different type of normal. So I'm really looking forward to participating in the conversation, and also hearing what Emmy and Athena and Sophie have to share about their own situation. So thank you.
Great, thanks so much, Walter. And so we'll go with Athena next, our mystery student in the background. Athena, go ahead, tell us a bit about what you're studying and where you're at right now.
All right, first of all, I'm so sorry about the technical issue that happened, but my name is Athena. I'm from Iran. I came here to Canada during high school for grade 11 and 12. And then after that, I did a very unique program offered at the University of Waterloo, where I studied psychology and I did co-op at the same time. And now I'm studying management engineering, which is only offered at the University of Waterloo again, kind of a mixture of mechanical engineering, a little bit of computer science, a little bit of business. It's like all mixed. And
that's very cool.
Yeah, I'm here to help students to make the wisest choice.
Great, thanks so much, Athena. And last but not least, Emmy, feel free to go ahead and tell us a bit more about yourself.
Thank you, Katie. My name is Emmy, and I'm an international student from Vietnam. I'm currently in my 4th year in the Bachelor of Public Relations at Conestoga College, and I moved to Canada 3 years ago to begin my education. Not only did I did my last semester with online courses, I also did my last year of high school through remote learning. So I have quite a bit of experience in that area as well. I did the last 4 months of my co-op online. So hopefully I'll have some insights and strategies to help you with the upcoming school year. So very excited to be a part of this webinar. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much, everyone. I think that gives our audience a bit more background on where everyone is coming from in this discussion. So let's dive right in. Let's talk a little bit about the state of things right now. So I'd really like to hear from our schools. What are you guys doing to prepare and support students at this time? Because I know that that's kind of the big question, right? Like what is actually being done, especially on the support side. How are students being supported with either online or blended learning? How are you guys planning on having your students study?
Do you want me to share? I'll take this first.
Sure, yeah, go for it.
We can jump about as needed. So I think, you know, the situation in the UK, for those of you who are in the audience or perhaps listening to this, you may or may not aware that the UK took a stance some months ago that they will allow international EU students, overseas students, to come to the UK to study. That is with some caveats. So there's self-isolation needed, there's obviously various issues or hurdles that come with that, but that has left with it institutions with a great problem to have, in that they working alongside government advice, have got the option to be able to bring students in for an approach which in most cases is blended. So UE and a lot of other UK universities are going for a blended learning approach. What that means at UE is that large lectures will be online. That's because in the UK, social distancing is now in place to kind of ebb the stem of coronavirus. So for large lectures where we may normally have 100 students crowding into a lecture theatre, we obviously know social distancing doesn't work too well. So the UE, like a lot of universities, is going down the route of large lectures being online and seminars and face-to-face tutorials and obviously lab work complementing that. Now that's given us a great opportunity to kind of explore both the digital side of things, but also the face-to-face. That's been amazing. It gives students the best of both worlds, but it does come with its barriers. It does come with its hurdles, you know, and a lot of those Walter will be experiencing alongside the distance learning. But for UE, the thing that we've really done to help prepare students is we've put something new in called Block Zero. This is a 3-week, it's not start of teaching, but this is a 3-week pre-learning module, which is all online. So this is for all students, whether they be international, EU, domestic, and it allows students to come in and start engaging with our systems before they actually start. So this could be anything as simple as them connecting with their course mates, so they begin to make those connections before lectures start. It could be academic, it could be use of software that we have, it could be getting used to the online resources and materials that we're using with students throughout the time. So it's really to give them that kind of learning, that pre-introduction to the kind of way we expect their year to go. I'm going to hand over to Walter because I'm really interested to hear what's happening in Canada. There's, you know, we've got a whole other kind of ways that we're supporting students with the face-to-face, but I think, you know, this would be a good time to hand over and hear about kind of what's happening from the Canadian perspective.
Oh, you're muted again there, Walter.
I'll make sure that's the last time you.
One of the challenges that Walter can mention.
That's right. We have a really big problem with people muting their on webinars in Canada. No, it's Sophie, thank you, and it's great to hear about what your practices are. In fact, it's very similar. In Canada, we have been, I think, much more restrictive. At least for the time being, we are more restrictive in terms of allowing international students to enter Canada. At present, the policy states that there are exemptions to the travel restrictions for students who must come to Canada to complete their program, and that all institutions that can deliver their programs online are asked to do so. So at present, we are delivering all of our programs online, with the exception of our film school, where in the 3rd term we're starting to reintroduce students to the classroom in particularly in courses like cinematography, where it's really hands-on learning. So that's a much different situation right now. Now, where we are bringing students in, it sounds very similar, Sophie, to your arrangement, where we've reduced class sizes from from a typical class size of 18 to a maximum of 10 in a large studio. And we're also sort of reducing contact by bringing students, not having students lounges open and areas for sort of congregation. So it is still in some ways a bit stark in terms of students come in for the experience of learning that's necessary, and then they go back home and study online for the rest of the program. So we are again delivering online, and we have quite a few students that have started the program from outside of Canada as well, started their Bachelor of Business Administration program or Bachelor of Interior Design program from outside of Canada. We have a sort of particularly interesting angle in that we've been delivering programs at the bachelor's and master's level since 2004. So for us, the pivot, as they say, hasn't been quite as challenging. And in fact, one of the things that we deliver, and I think we'll get into this later, is we deliver asynchronously, which means that it's not simply sort of putting lectures up online, but we have quite a number of different ways that students engage learning that I hope we get a chance to get into today.
Yeah, we'll probably talk a little bit more about that and just the different formats and ways that that institutions have chosen to go about online learning. That's a really good point that there are those differences between, well, there's blended learning, and then you also have progressively integrated learning. So starting online and then progressing to coming to be in the classroom, and then synchronous versus asynchronous learning. And I think that's what makes this topic so interesting, is there are many different approaches that are being taken by different institutions. Sorry, Walter, I'll let you finish. So you had a few more things to say, I think.
No, I think that's it. I think that on the other side of things, and Sophie, I'm sure that it's been a similar trajectory for you, that a lot of our work right now is just on preparing for a reopening of the Canadian borders, and we're we've been asked to prepare by the government quarantine plans or self-isolation plans, and that's something that we weren't sure that was going to be sort of our responsibility as an institution, but it turns out it is. The good thing is that allows us to make our preparations and be ready for the time that the borders open and students are allowed to come to Canada. So we're looking forward to that. We're looking forward to being able to sort of re-engage in person. But in the meantime, we have a lot of ways for students to interact with us and to get started and work towards their own their ultimate goals. One of the things in Canada too, I'm not sure that we've spoken about, is the postgraduate work permit, which is really a big advantage. And I know that there's a similar program in the UK, that students who complete half their program online during this period are able to come and complete the second half without losing any of the benefits of the postgraduate work permit. So,
Yeah,
so I think
so
that's a
great things being done by both of our governments at this time, which makes the whole transition so much easier. And students just knowing that is still secure, that their post-study work permit, their postgraduate work permit is still valid, is still good, even if they do start studying online or in a blended format, which is great. And I think we're going to get into some more of those points you're mentioning there, Walter. So I do just want to hear from our students. So that that's great. That gives us an understanding of sort of where we're at in terms of curriculum delivery for this coming term. And I think the takeaway already is just it's wildly different than it has been in the past. And this is something that students are going to have to grapple with, understand, and get used to as well. Just considering, you know, I remember being a student and taking an online course when I was a student. This might age me a little bit, but online study was a relatively new thing in my earlier years of post-secondary education. So it was a huge adjustment at that time, but I could only imagine, Emmy and Athena, what you both are going through right now to adjust to studies that are majority online. So do you want to ask you, you know, what do you feel you need at the moment to succeed studying online? So you can, you know, I'd love to hear about, you know, like what is your, when you're studying online, what's your day-to-day, like how do you structure your day? How do you help yourself be successful?
Athena, do you want me to start? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thanks. Personally, for myself, I'm a really creative and, you know, non-structured person, I would say. I'm not huge on organization and time management, and it's become a problem many a times with procrastination and things like that, which I'm sure a lot of students also struggle with. So with online learning, it's a huge opportunity just for me to work on those skills, time management and organization and self-discipline. And I think that's really important, especially during these times. It's unprecedented times, and there's a lot of employment opportunity moving forward. A lot of jobs will be remote, and I think it's just a great skill set to have, to be able to manage your time and productivity and things like that. But specifically, what I think I'll need moving forward with this school year is a lot of support from faculty and my professors, as well as opportunities to stay connected to my classmates and to the classes, just to feel less isolated, less alone. And it's also important for mental health as well as productivity in general. So yeah, I think that's my take on that. I'll leave it to Athena to share what she thinks.
Athena, do we have you there? I think you might be muted. I think we lost Athena for the moment, so we'll wait for her to log back in here. Again, one of those challenges, like, you know, you're gonna have students from all over the world studying, and understanding that not all internet connections are created equal as well. And that's a challenge of online learning. So I'll flip it back briefly to both Sophie and Walter to talk a little bit about maybe the nitty-gritty of how your courses are going to be delivered. We touched on asynchronous versus synchronous learning, and for our audience, I'll talk a little bit about that. So synchronous learning being your lecture is scheduled if it's scheduled at 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, that means it's 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time for everybody, no matter where in the world you are. Asynchronous is a little bit different, where you're able to, for instance, play back a lecture at any time, and that delivery is asynchronous. It's anybody can access that information when they need to. So with that in mind, let's hear from you, Sophie and Walter. But what are the specifics of that course delivery that's going to be helping students succeed?
Well, so at UE, we're actually going for a blend of both, and I think for two reasons. One, there is still huge benefit of having that kind of interaction. So if it's scheduled at a certain time, what the university, as I imagine lots of other universities are working on, is it not just being somebody talking at a screen for an hour.
Right.
Elements of interaction there, of students being able to participate, whether that be polls, surveys, and depending on the class size, it could even be a discussion like this. So there's still a real level of importance on that. But equally, we have students who are all over the world. We have students with caring responsibilities. We have students who work part-time. So expecting everyone to be online at 2 p.m. just isn't feasible. And actually, what I think, I think back to when I was at university, and I'm not going to give my age away, but it was a little while ago, and I think I was not a morning person. Like if I had a 9 a.m. lecture, yeah, I'd get up and go because I was a good student, but God, would I struggle. I would sit there and my brain just, as much, even if it was the most exciting topic in the world, my brain just wouldn't quite get going. If I had the opportunity when I was a student to be able to access that at a time when it worked for me, when I was the most focused, when my brain was awake and pinging around the thoughts and able to do that, I know that I would have benefited from that so much. So actually, when I speak to students now about online, I really think it's the best of both worlds, because yes, okay, you're not physically in a space together, but you still have the option to physically, digitally be together. But equally for students who aren't able to access that, rather than miss out, or for students who are able to access it, but just not at a time when works best for them, being able to revisit that, I think is going to give students such a benefit that actually we've never kind of been able to explore with students before. So I'm really excited about it. I think if I was a student, I would be loving this, but that's maybe my 9 a.m. brain, thinking, yeah.
I relate with you there, Sophie.
So kind of from you, we were really positive, we really benefit from that. But obviously what we do have is the added advantage yet complication of some of it being face-to-face, including we've got medical courses such as nursing, physiotherapy. We've got similar to Walter, we've got courses like filmmaking, engineering, architecture, which do require that face-to-face or that more physical side. So trying to work the two of them together is exciting, but does give a little bit more of a complication in terms of how the university and other universities in our position have been approaching this. So yeah, it'd be great to hear from Walter.
Yeah. Sophie, that's wonderful. I mean, it sounds like you guys are really doing a great job of engaging students during this time. For me, I maybe sort of start with my own experience. I've had the sort of dubious honor of having been a student for 13 of the last 15 years myself, and completed my doctoral program at the late age that I won't disclose, but last year. And I had the opportunity in my master's and doctoral program to take a lot of online courses. And for me, the experience of sort of a straight lecture transferred to an online environment really wasn't effective. And even in my doctoral program, some of the online courses I took were very basic in that sense. And there was one I remember not so fondly that was a 3-hour lecture every Monday. So I would come home from work and then there would be a lecture online for 3 hours, and it was really difficult to gain anything from that. At a certain point, you kind of shut down. It's also not engaging and interactive. So I think it's really important, and I think this is true in the classroom and online, that there is an engagement and that the students get to participate in their own learning and in the creation of knowledge. And that engagement's really what sort of drives your attention. The approach that we're taking, and that students from outside of Canada are going to experience with us, is an asynchronous model, and that doesn't mean that there are not moments where students are engaging with each other in real time. In particular, they would be maybe popping out into small groups and engaging with each other on a project. Or meeting individually with a faculty member, sort of one-on-one with a video software like Zoom, the one that we use, and so there is that human engagement, but the learning is really more about an engagement that happens not in real time, and one of the sort of fundamental components of that is discussion questions, and this has always been my favorite part of online education too, because for instance, you're given weekly readings, And then you're asked a series of questions about those readings where you have to kind of bring forward what you've learned from your readings. And then the students that you're studying with are asked to comment on your comments as well as bring forward their own. And one of the things that I felt when I experienced that as a student was that I would do my readings and I would go in and engage in the discussion questions. And then when I get up from my computer, it sort of dawns on me that I've learned all the things really effectively that I've gone through in the discussions. And when I first started experiencing this, it almost felt like it was just I was taking some sort of an easy path, and I'll use the dreaded C word of cheating because it almost felt like that, because I was just like I wasn't doing anything other than engaging in the discussions, yet everything that I'm supposed to learn has been absorbed. And I think that there are a lot of different ways, because everybody learns differently. Some learn visually, some are better learning by listening to a lecture. Some people absorb information better by reading. And if you have a course, and this is what we always try to do, is to try to bring in all of these different components and all of these different tools and approaches to learning that that really kind of meet the needs of all of these individuals that might be in your classroom. So some people who learn better visually, they have the visual component. People who really need to engage with other students are engaged. And that I think, in fact, and I, this is maybe a radical thing to say, but I think that in many ways, in terms of the basic learning. Now, there are other reasons why on campus is really important: the socialization and meeting people in a much more fluid way. I think those things are important and shouldn't be dismissed. But I think in terms of basic learning, in many ways, if an online course is done properly, it's a better vehicle for absorbing information and learning subject matter.
Yeah, that's a really good point that you made there, just about different learning styles as well. Uh, and online learning being this really great platform to see multiple learning styles addressed. So whether a student is a visual learner or auditory learner, or they need to engage with other people in discussion in order to retain information, I think that that's an important point to make. So that online learning does facilitate that. Because when you think about a lecture, like I will admit that lectures just don't do it for me. I need to talk about what I'm learning. I need to actually teach someone else in order to really get it myself, and engage with other people. So, Athena, I see that you're back online here. Are you able to unmute yourself there? And I'd love to hear your take on it. What do you need to successfully study online? Is this resonating with you?
I'm so sorry again because it's
No
just some
worries.
technical issues that my MacBook has. But yeah, I only heard Emmy was talking about time management and organization, and I really do agree with her that that would improve that skills in the students. But for me, I'm personally so okay with my combined courses. I have live and pre-recorded lectures that I really like both of them. The live ones kind of give me that impression that I am doing university courses. And then there's a prof talking to me and I can meet with him. I can see other people, my classmates, and then the pre-recorded lectures really give me the flexibility to just have my own organized plan for the day. But what I really need for myself to kind of figure out during my online studies is how am I going to do my labs, because the engineering labs are also online, at least for me. And I have 2 labs this term coming up that are going to be online. I'm not really sure how are we gonna do that, but
Right.
yeah, because we really need the facilities and everything to just work with. I have some design courses that I don't know how to kind of do it, but my profs are in touch with me. Um, they're kind of explaining how we're gonna do that and what are the kind of like assessments, what we need to do. But I don't really think it's going to be a huge challenge because there are a lot of us, engineers, health sciences, we all have labs, chemical labs, everything. I hope that I can figure it out, and I just hope that it's easy for me and other students because it's 100% hands-on and it's going to be 100% online. So yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
I'd,
Hearing
I'd like
about,
to,
lab components. Yeah, go ahead, Walter.
yeah, I'd like to respond to that a little bit too, because we started offering the Bachelor of Interior Design program online a number of years ago, and at the time it was you know it felt like quite a radical move because there were really tactile components like the ones that you're referring to um, in the online, in the online delivery. And we also had sort of an added challenge of seeking North American accreditation for the program. And this was, in the from the CETA, which is regulates the interior design um, industry. And so the challenge was, how are we going to teach things like AutoCAD for one, the use of the
Right. Yeah.
drafting software. How also do you teach things like drawing online? And so we developed these, mechanisms and to exchange creative work online and in much in the same way that I sort of referred to the discussion questions, we had students produce and videotape their their drawing and or whatever creative work that they were doing, and then upload it to the system, to the course, where students would be able to engage with each other in discussions around the you know the work, and where faculty would be able to engage with students and sort of one-on-one critiques and sort of assist them with their technical work. And I think I'm giving a very basic explanation of this, but I think that the best courses and the best approach to this is by bringing in also whatever uh, technological add-ons that you need for the course to make this exchange possible. And the other thing too is that in in engineering programs and the like, then there are simulations and different things that you can bring in. In fact, simulations are aspects of a lot of our programs. In fact, we have even in our business program some simulation software that we bring in to assist with the
Right.
learning. So there's a lot of different ways to do it, and I think that one of the things I would suggest is that just students don't be afraid of the engagement and sort of think, sort of stretch themselves to explore these courses. And I think that a lot of you would be really nicely surprised that that it does work really well. It's different, but it is possible to learn technical programs online, and we've been doing it for a number of years, and it's working extremely well. And the important thing, and I'll pass it on to Sophie or Emmy after this, but the important thing for us is that the learning outcomes are the same or on par there's a difference maybe in the learning outcomes, but the overall learning outcome is either on par or slightly better when students learn in an online environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Even
absolutely. I think that's programs. Yeah, that's a really good point. Just seeing how far technology has advanced in the sense that we're able to support those types of technical programs online. So being able to, yeah, like you said, upload work and have it critiqued by classmates online. Are you, and I'll flip it over to Sophie here to talk a little bit more about what the blended approach looks like. But I mean, Athena, are you guys finding so far that that's possible through your courses?
Yeah, for sure. And I'm just going to echo what Walter said about the interactive component of online learning and having your classmates critique your work. I think it's really important, especially in my program. It's public relations, communications, and in the School of Business, right? So we need a lot of critical thinking, a lot of debates, and the nature of the classes is always super interactive. So that's something that I hope will be transferable to online courses. And for my college too, we have really small class sizes. So the profs really take the time to get to know each student and get us engaged in conversations and discussions. And I think that's where we get the most productivity out of, just like bouncing ideas off of each other and have brainstorming sessions and have those conversations. I think it's critical, it's essential to learning. And that's what's worked for me so far. And the last half of my last semester, we did online courses. And although it was new, everyone was still able to incorporate that interactive aspect into the classes. And I think it's really helpful moving forward as well.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Everybody's in the same boat. It's not just, a cohort of students taking one online course. Everybody is in the same situation. I think that helps with that element of community too, that students who may be thinking about online learning and thinking to themselves, am I really going to get that interactivity? Well, I'm going to say, yeah, because everybody is in the same situation. Everyone is having to learn online. I think that brings a sense of camaraderie. And so, Sophie, I'd love to hear kind of what things are looking like in the UK and what that looks like.
Yeah, so I mean, we've, like I said at the beginning, like every country, we've been kind of very much led by what our governments are mandating. But actually, airports in the UK have remained open throughout the pandemic. Universities are very much gearing up to welcoming students, both domestic EU and international students, back into the UK. But obviously, that does come with its, I don't want to say problems, but that comes with its opportunities, its barriers as well. What that does give us is it gives us the opportunity to allow students to engage in this new way of learning, this new digital online way of learning, which actually, Emmy made a really good point earlier about future careers. And look at us all here, and my office is now COVID secure. I can go and work in the office if I want, but the university isn't mandating that we must. We hear about Google now saying that it will allow employees to continue to work from home forever now, and this is the reality of the future, not just because of a global pandemic, but actually because companies have realized that technology allows this, that people can still connect, that people can still work. And what I think is really exciting for a lot of students is that this is setting them up for the future of the workplace, that beginning to enable them to work digitally, to engage, to communicate, to give them the tools to work in a very different way, is really setting them up for the way that the workforce has already shifted to and is likely to continue to shift, but to remain. I think we are lucky though in the UK that we are still able to bring students onto campus. We have challenges still. I mean, how do you Walter very correctly talked about the student experience being a huge part. And, again, I think back to when I was at university and, I loved my course, but actually some of the greatest learnings I got was from being a student, was from making friends, was from the social activities, was from, cooking, doing our first you know, a trip to the supermarket and cooking together, you know, all of those things are such a big part of a university experience. And how do you replicate that online? And I think there are a lot of ways actually that universities are, that they're building up these online communities, that they're connecting people, you know, with their course mates, with, you know, with people of the same interests. You know, our Students' Union is doing a lot to ensure that that sense of community still is there, because even though we are open, and even though students will be able to come, it will be a very different environment to what it has been previously. You know, there will be elements where even some of the social aspects, you know, we used to have a big welcome fair where we would have, you know, 6,000 new students coming and speaking to the music club, the music society, speaking. That can't happen anymore, but you know, it still has to happen in different ways. So I think when we're talking about digital, it's not just the classroom, it's all of the different ways now that we will continue to see students engaging with each other to keep that sense of community there. How we support students. I've just come off a call about graduation for next year. You know, do we think we're going to be able to have a physical graduation for our graduating cohorts? We hope so, but will it be the same as before? Maybe not, or maybe we won't be able to. Also, you know, there's so many different dynamics which will be impacted by this, and I think actually there will be a lot that even if there was a vaccination tomorrow and everything can go back to normal, I truly believe that universities will really keep a lot of what they've learned out of this, because it supports so much the future development of our students and what that means to them once they go on and graduate and continue their career. So for me, again, it's such an exciting time. I think students coming into this new normal are real trailblazers. They're going to be the ones who kind of go through all of this first. These are going to be the ones that develop that resilience, that confidence, and that coming out of this are going to have such a strong start. It's going to be difficult and different at times, but that doesn't mean bad, you know. So for me, yeah, I think it's an exciting period.
And Sophie, I think you really hit on something important, and one of the things that I've found is that as an institution, we're doing a much better job communicating to students, because we recognize how important it was. But I think that this is something that's going to, just dramatically improve how we engage with students using digital methods going forward. And in fact, even our student services, our whole notion of student services has changed. And one of the things that I like, and it's such a simple thing, is that we have student service staff that are on Zoom, for drop-ins, kind of almost all the time, right? Like that it's not, contact us and then we'll, put you on our list and return the and contact. It's just drop in to a Zoom session that's open and say, hey, I need some help. And that's the kind of support that I think really makes this work. We're especially, I think, and I think Sophie, you're probably experiencing this right now, but we're really preparing for that for when students do come, because the notion of bringing students over and then they immediately go into an intense 14-day isolation. That requires that's a real responsibility on our part to make sure that students have, their mental health is okay, that they're not feeling. I mean, they're obviously going to feel isolated, but that they don't feel disconnected, from the supports that we have. So I think you've hit on something, because I feel like we're getting better as an institution, and we're getting better at support because of this challenge that we faced.
Yeah, it's again just adjusting to that new normal and seeing what's going to stick, and seeing what's effective for students. So I want to shift gears a little bit here and talk about, we have a question that's come through specifically for our students about what are some of your top tips. I'm assuming this question is from a student themselves, and they're wondering what can they do? What are the best practices for studying online, and what do you suggest they start doing to make the most of their online learning?
I'm just going to go ahead and share my personal experience first. Top tips. So what's really worked for me is setting up a schedule, a routine, and just sticking to it. Like no excuses. Like it's 8 a.m. It doesn't matter if there's a class, you have to attend it, even though it's going to be recorded and you can watch it later. Like, no, just like commit yourself to it.
Start your day at a normal time kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. Because otherwise it's a slippery slope. It's so easy to just like fall behind and not be on top of things. So that's huge for me. And also have a planner, a calendar of sorts, and just map out all your deadlines, all of the key dates throughout the semester to make sure you stay on top of everything. And also, I've mentioned this before, but I'm like super extroverted, creative. So it's huge for me to have that time to interact with other people. So maybe like schedule Zoom calls or even FaceTime your classmates and, you know, discuss class projects and how they're doing their thing, how you're doing your thing. And I think it's key to learning as well, because with online classes, you're lacking that social component, and it's great to like offset that through interacting with your classmates. And yeah, like don't procrastinate. That goes from hard, like that's the lesson that I learned the hard way. I do that so much and it never turns out good. So yeah, just stay on top of yourself, discipline, and have a routine. Yeah, that would be my top tips.
These all sound like tips that I need in my day-to-day work. So these are all great things, I will say, for the workforce as well, especially as it develops into a more online or remote workforce in the future. So that's great. Athena, how about you?
Definitely, having a schedule that you are really committed to is my top tip. I mean, having a schedule or planner is easy. Okay, I'm gonna wake up, I'm gonna do this, do that, but being really committed to and do as you planned is kind of hard. But like students are gonna get used to it. So that's my first one. Other than what Emmy mentioned, I personally have a fixed place in my room, which is my desk, that I always study there, nowhere else. And then that place, that desk really makes me feel like studying, even if I'm not in a mood for it. When I sit there, I face my laptop, I'm like, okay, this time is time for studying. And then that would make me twice as productive. I don't know, I just feel like studying, you know, no distraction, just like focus, like concentrate on your studies, do nothing else. And then if I'm feeling like, okay, I'm gonna be distracted, I have some apps that are really on my phone, on my laptop, that would really help me. One of them that I find really interesting is named Off Time, that would lock my phone and I wouldn't have access to my social media, to anything. And I'm like, okay, so it has a timer, like, okay, but like in 45 minutes, I have nothing to do. I can't have access to my phone, so just better study. And other good tips that, okay, there are tons of real good resources out there for every single program, and most of them are free. Majority of them are free, and they're really good. And I think we really have to go ahead and find them and really use them, because it's not like the assessments are not 100% on the lectures. We have to also study the textbooks and other resources, and some of them are just like, go ahead and do this research, do that research. So I really recommend that find the good resources that you are really comfortable with. Some of them are audio, some of them are just video, some of them are just like both combined. Those would really help. Also, being in touch with profs and TAs would really help. If you have any issues, if you have questions, feel free to email them. It's going to be online. They're going to be online and answer your questions. So if you need any help, feel free to contact your TAs. Always have their email address, their name, their office hours somewhere written down for yourself. And yeah, just don't be afraid. I think that's another top tip. Just like go ahead, feel free to kind of risk it sometimes. Just don't be afraid. It's gonna be okay.
Yeah, I love that. And you know, we've had a couple questions come through that are phrased in a way that say, well,
Katie, I
what
think
if
you're muted.
online study, oh yeah, we can still hear you. What if online study just doesn't work for this particular student? And I think the biggest part about this whole situation that we find ourselves in is that it's a challenge, absolutely, but it's a real big opportunity for students to expand their skill set. And like you said, look for those resources, expand their capacity to do independent research. This is just, you know, it's an opportunity that you wouldn't normally have face to face even, is to have that real importance and that real focus on independent study and on independent learning, and really flexing those muscles and learning how to do that well. So I see it as an opportunity myself.
Katie,
So
I'd like
yeah, go
to,
ahead,
if
Walter.
I could, just respond quickly to that. I think that you know, one of the challenges that people face relates to the stigma of online education, and I think that it's especially true in countries where it really hasn't been sort of accepted as a normal and sort of proper uh, mode of delivery. Um, and I know, you know, in UK and North America, I mean, UK was really groundbreaking. There's this fantastic UK Open University that really sort of changed the whole world's perspective on remote learning. Um, but I think that one of the reasons people are afraid of online education is because that they've heard of really terrible examples of online education that is really more about sort of self-directed learning, where you get kind of a learning package and it's like, go ahead, learn.
Yeah.
And I think that that is the you know, the least effective approach, and it's sort of the opposite of what universities like, you know, Sophie's and mine are doing. And you know, one of the things I want to sort of make clear is that this is not a sink or swim, learn on your own situation. This is really a fully engaged, paced learning where you have assignments that are due just like you do in a on-campus course. You have deadlines to meet. You have to, you know, deliver on assignments or engage with students, and even if it's not in real time, you know, that they're still in. If it's, you know, a course with essays, the essays due on Wednesday, and what ends up happening is that, you know, you engage the way Athena and Emmy do, and you know, follow a sort of discipline in the self learning period, but then you have to engage with students, all other students, and with your faculty all along the way, and that keeps you on pace. It's not only up to you. You're part of a whole sort of you know, flow and energy of the course, and the flow and energy of learning that's taking part, you know, from that your other students in your course are engaged in. So it's not what you may have thought online education is. It's a much different experience when it's done right. And I think that students who are afraid of it maybe need to sort of challenge their own preconception of what online learning is and experience it, and, you know, before they determine that it's not for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'm going to take that opportunity to pivot to our closing remarks today. We are coming to the end of our time. The questions that we've received here, it's been great. We've kind of worked them into the discussion here. So let's get some last thoughts. You know, in a word, what kind of opportunity do you see with these new online or blended learning models? So start at the left of my screen again with Sophie there, just in short, how do you see this?
I see it as an opportunity. I think it's a big part of the future. I think, like I said, even if COVID disappeared tomorrow and we could go back to normal, I don't think universities will, and I don't think it will be the right thing. I think this will become interwoven as part of the future. So I think, again, just from me, students being the first part of this, being kind of the pioneers in the new norm, is such an exciting thing, and it should be like anything that's new. There's going to be elements of fear and trepidation, but alongside that, that's because it's exciting and new and groundbreaking, and students who are part of this will certainly benefit in lots of different ways. So that's it for me.
Walter?
Yeah, I would just say that, I think that lately, I think because this situation has persisted, that there's a lot of anxiety around, students who really want to get started, and the way they see themselves getting started is, of course, kind of coming to Canada and getting going. And while we recognize that, I think that it is important for students to understand that they can get started. They can save a lot of money, in fact, in terms of living costs and everything, by just going ahead and getting going. And then, trust that all of us want to welcome them to Canada and want them to come. But I think that it's a much different situation when you come after having completed 2 or 3 1, 2 or 3 successful terms, and already got started to move forward in their lives toward their ultimate goal, which is to graduate from their program and get started on work experience in Canada. So I think that I really would just encourage students to sort of step in and get started, while we all work on preparing for the next stage and for reopening of the world. We're all in this together. We are all having a shared experience, and that I think that it's sort of time for us to get started and move towards engaging with our lives, despite what we're experiencing. So and really my my heart goes out to all of you. And I'm really pleased to have been able to participate in this discussion. And also thank you to Emmy, Athena, and Sophie for all of your wonderful contributions to the discussion. And Katie, thanks for inviting me.
Not a problem. So let's finish our Emmy. Let's hear some of your thoughts.
So concluding thoughts, online learning for me, 2 main things. Mental health, that's huge. I'm not going to pretend like it's going to be easy. It is a challenge. It is a hurdle. It's new. So I would say take this time and be easy on yourself. Of course, self-discipline, but at the same time, know when your limits are, and take a break once in a while, and be okay with the fact that you're not 100% as productive as you used to be, and just ease into it and don't be so hard on yourself. And also personally, for me, for my future career goals, this has opened up a whole new prospect for me. I would love to be able to work remotely, maybe even permanently, so I can have the opportunity to travel the world. And so maybe think about something like that, a positive that could come from this circumstance. And yeah, I have faith that we'll be okay. Everything's gonna be fine. And don't put your future on hold, 100%. Yeah.
Awesome. Athena.
Yeah, totally. What Emmy just said was totally my opinion too. And because I had the opportunity to study online and work online, and I loved both, and I did great in both, because everybody did. I think we really have to hear from the students that already did some online courses or online studies to really find out that it's not that hard. It's not just go ahead and study yourself. We have a lot of support. There are a lot of resources for us, and it's just a real great opportunity to improve our skills, all of the soft skills that we have. And yeah, for the students who are outside Canada, I would say they're gonna save a lot of money, as doing they're not paying for any rent here in Canada, for like other living expenses, transportation. Even for us, I'm not going to pay for transportation to go to the university. My schedule is up to me, what I'm more comfortable with. Some students are comfortable with studying in the morning, studying at night, and I have the opportunity to have a part-time job as well. So I think we really have to see the positives, and that would just carry us into some good events eventually.
Great. Yeah. So just to wrap up here, thank you to everyone. Thank you, Sophie, Walter, Emmy, and Athena for being a part of this discussion. It's been so great. I know we've gone a little bit over time here. Thanks for sticking with us. To all of our attendees, you will be getting a recording, and we also have a great blog post about this topic, talking about the advantages of starting online or starting with blended learning. So I hope that everyone has a great day. Take care, and we will see you soon.